Tribes, Injustice, Prejudice, Blood Clots, Flying Souls, Fred Durst. Max Cavalera goes nu metal with Soulfly. Fly high. Right, so the self-titled debut album from Soulfly, was released April 21st, 1998. And this was something like 2 years, maybe not quite 2 years, maybe about a year and a half after his departure from Sepultura, which was not a happy affair. There was a lot of bitterness from both sides, and it took Max quite a while to get going again. And in fact, there was actually an interview where he said that getting Soulfly started was actually harder than Sepultura because there was such a weight of expectation and so many people against him for leaving Sepultura that he found it very difficult. But get together he did, and he's not really stopped. I mean, one thing I've always respected about Max, he's a prolific motherfucker. Both with, he did Nail Bomb, Sepultura, he's got Cavalera Conspiracy. Soulfly, of course, I think it's good 8 or 9 albums with Soulfly. Is there any other stuff he's done? Oh, of course, he does the Killer Be Killed, which was a great project. I don't know if they'll be doing another album. I'll definitely be interested in checking that out. I'm talking very fast indeed, very fast talking. Yes, this was the first music that he put out since Sepultura's groundbreaking Roots album in '96. Fantastic album, and it's this kind of continuation of that. There's still a lot of metal in here. This album gets a lot of slagging off for being a new metal album, which there's definitely elements of that, but I think it's more going into the groove and percussion of his native Brazilian heritage that peppers this album. I happen to enjoy this album. I thought it was great. I got this as soon as it came out. I was always more in the Max Cavalera camp than the Sepultura camp, I suppose. Although I did check out Against, and I thought there was some great stuff on that. I think that came out later the same year. And I've checked in with them from time to time, and they've done some good stuff. And their last album, in particular, was very good. But yeah, I've always found myself siding with Max. And I'm not going to apologise for that. Now, a very important thing to point out before I get into the songs. This album was dedicated to the memory of Dana Wells, who was Max's stepson and tragically died in a car accident. But Max has always believed that he was murdered and that there's been a bit of a cover-up. A lot of the lyrics in this album are directed towards that as well, towards the people who've been covering up and the people who've been lying about it. There's been a lot of speculation as to what really happened that night. I don't know because I wasn't there and I would never know, so I will stay away from that, but just felt that it was worth mentioning as it is so prominent throughout this album. And while we're on the subject of that, the actual name Soulfly itself, the name of the band, that actually came from a collaboration that Max did with the Deftones on their astonishing Around the Fur album in 1997. They did a song called Head Up because Chino Marino, he was very, very good friends with Dana as well. So obviously they collaborated on that one, and the song itself featured the lyrics "Soulfly, fly free," and yeah, that's where the name Soulfly came from. Okay, first song, Eye for an Eye. Great start to an album. This one features Burton C. Bell and Dino Cazares from Fear Factory. Starts out heavy as hell and continues that really low tuned, I think it was To Be, maybe? To Be or Not Be. That they started out on Roots. Real groove, but heavy as hell. I think this song pretty much deals with his departure from Sepultura and the killing of Dana. I am what I create, believing in my fate. Integrity is my name. All that I am doing can never be ruined. My song remains insane. The chorus to this features Burton helping out on the backing vocals, and there's one other line in this song that particularly stands out. Fucking envy changes everything. It addresses the Sepultura split. I think there are a few bits in there that are maybe towards Dana's murder, but also his intent of going forward. Great start to an album. Next up we have No Hope Equals No Fear. Quite a negative sounding song, but I don't think that's the intention. This is one of those songs about being yourself, staying true to yourself. A lot of the album is. In fact, that's very true in a lot of Max's music. I won't wait for the next life. The time is now. The time is right. Follow my heart, I'll get through. If you're not now, you never were. Yeah, a statement of intent, no doubt addressing the people who had issues with him leaving Sepultura and maybe doubted where his future would take him and what he'd do. But yeah, good song, good tune. Next up we have Bleed. And this one features Fred Durst and DJ Lethal. And I believe this one addresses the people that they believe covered up Dana's murder. What goes around comes around. Quite prominent in a lot of Max's lyrics, actually. The idea of karma is something that comes up as well in Max's lyrics a lot of the times as well. What goes around comes around. Now it's your time. How long can you lie? How long can you hide? A lot of people have taken exception to the inclusion of Fred Durst on this, his rappity part. To be fair, I don't think it actually works that badly. Having said that, I wouldn't say that this is actually a favourite of mine in terms of Soulfly's music. That might come as a shock to some people. Some people may be horrified by this, or perhaps not, or indifferent. Not a bad song, but not one of my particular favourites. Next up we have Tribe, and this is a celebration and dedication, I guess, to tribes and tribal culture all over the world, particularly those who just want to practice their own beliefs and be left to their own practices free from the interference of Western culture. Your tribe, our tribe, your God, our God, your tribe, our tribe, your tribe, my tribe. I read in an interview as well, this is one of Max's favourites from the Soulfly catalogue, and one that he loves playing live, and that he pretty much says that this is almost like a Metalhead's theme song. Metalheads, I guess, being kind of their own tribe. There's a lot of loners in this tribe, I've noticed. Next up we have Boomba. This features Los Hooligans. Starts out with a funky little intro before going into a down-picked riff that pretty much stays throughout the song. And this is a song about remembering your roots, where you come from. Bring our roots where under the sun, from in the jungle and in the slums. Our freedom we bring with this song. Never forget where you come from. Integrity seems to be a very important thing for Max. There are a lot of people who question that. I can't say I have. He's always seemed to be quite a legit guy to me. I'd highly recommend checking out his book as well, My Bloody Roots. Very good book, very good read. Next up we have First Commandment, and this one features Chino Marino from the Deftones, and much like Head Up, this is a collaboration that's squarely based on dedicating to Dana Wells. A lot of rage in this song. Karma, how does it feel? Karma, to take a life. Wailing, wailing in vain. Wailing, you'll reap what you sow. Heavy song. Next up we have Bumbleclot, which means blood clot in Jamaican patois. I'm not sure, but I think it's a less than complimentary term. Supposedly this one was written about a guy called Vagler Lamounier, who was actually originally in Sepultura right at the very beginning. I think he actually contributed lyrics to the song Antichrist, which would later become Anticop. After that he formed I think they're a pretty well-known Brazilian death metal band, Sarcophago. Apparently what happened is basically when Sepultura did actually get famous, he revealed some personal details or talked shit about the band or something in the press, and this song is in reference to this guy. So yes, Bumbleclot, I don't think calling him a Bumbleclot, I don't think is well-intentioned. You fake, you waste, you Bumbleclot. Next up we have the title track itself, Soulfly, and this is by far one of probably my favourite song actually. It's an instrumental, real trippy, meditative jam. It's just a very relaxing song, which is not the sort of thing you'd expect from a band like this or somebody like Max, but works really well. Always loved this song, and this started a tradition. It certainly did on the first 4 Soulfly albums, where they would have a instrumental track. So on Primitive it was called Soulfly 2, on the 3rd album it's Soulfly 3, Soulfly 4, etc, etc, etc. I think you get what I'm saying. Like I said, an instrumental, but in the line notes of the album, Max wrote, "We sat outside the studio at night among a few candles and closed our eyes for a minute. After that we jammed straight from our hearts. We didn't play for ourselves, but for the ones no longer with us in flesh, but always with us in spirit. God bless until we meet again. Soulfly, fly free." Without a doubt, one of my favourite songs there. Absolutely love this song. Next up we have Uma Buma Ruma. Uma Bama Ruma. I always love the groovy riff on this one. Down, 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 get down, 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 get down, down. And this is actually a cover of a George A. Ben song. I think it was from a 1976 album called Africa, Brazil. And it was actually written about an African striker, as in a football striker. And it's widely considered, the original, to be one of the greatest sports songs ever written. Yeah, I always loved this song. Just such a good groove to it. There's a lot of very heavy stuff on this, but one thing I always liked about this album was the experimentation and doing things that just had a bit more of a groove, a vibe to them. And this is one of them. Really enjoyed this track. Next up we have Quilombo. This one features Benji Webb, and as you might expect, this has a very ragga type delivery to the vocal pattern that works very well. And this song's written about a guy called Zumbi, who was a very important figure in political Brazilian history, and he was a pioneer and leader in the resistance to Brazilian slavery. This is a true story of a slave man who fled his people from the white man. So I'll say that he showed me the way. To be brave, brave, don't be afraid. Zumbi his name, Colombo the place. Our route you can never erase. Zumbi his name, Colombo his place. Our route you can never erase. Next up we have Fire. More of a metal vibe to this one, and I read somewhere that this, I think, is in memory of a guy called Chico Science, who died in a car accident in 1997 at the age of 30. That fucking sucks. Next up we have The Song Remains Insane. I've not actually read this anywhere, but I presume this is in reference to the Led Zeppelin film. Was it 1973 it was filmed? I'm in 76. The Song Remains the Same, which was a live concert that was filmed back in the 70s. Led Zeppelin at their height, I think it was. And this is pretty much two songs in one. One is a cover of, is it Ciao? Is it Ciao? I presume it is, by Ratos de Parau. And the second half of the song is a pretty much a hardcore version of Sepultura's Attitude. Bit of a filler song, this one. Next up we have No, and this one features Christian Old Wolvers from, well, then of Fear Factory. I think he's in Power Flow now, is it? Is it Power Flow? With Billy Graciade and Sendog. Features very prominent bass, as you'd expect with something that features Christian. And this one is pretty much a statement of intent. No judge me, no fuck around, no trust no one, no criticize, no fake smiles, no sympathize, no enemies, no redneck shit. Pretty much tells it exactly how it fucking is. Good tune. Penultimate song we got is Prejudice, and this again features Benji Webb, with more of the Rasta style vocals. And the title of this one pretty much speaks for itself. This is about prejudice and the idiotic thinking behind judging someone based on nothing, basically. Based on nothing. Nothing of any tangible thing. Should have written something out a bit better for that one, with such a heavy sentiment. Prejudice, shame on all nations. Breeding hate, don't need no segregation. Not necessarily one of my favourite songs, but I do like the message on it. And the final song on the album is Carmageddon, and this is pretty much an instrumental, trippy kind of trippy, psychedelic, dark instrumental. And I think it actually, at the tail end of this as well, we also get a hidden track called Soltau de Mata. Yeah, pretty much an instrumental track to play us out. It was kind of nice hearing this album again. I haven't heard it in many years. I've listened to Sepultura many times over the years. I've got no dislike of Soulfly necessarily, but yeah, I haven't returned to this one quite as much. I was surprised how well this actually held up today. I was expecting it to sound a little more dated than it did, but actually surprisingly, it holds up surprisingly well. A few bits of filler on there, but what is good is really good. A few bits of filler, like I said. But other than that, there's some great stuff on here, some great lyrics. Very impassioned. I've always found that with Max's stuff. He's always a guy who kind of wears his heart on his sleeve, and integrity is a big thing for him, and there's a lot of that in this album for sure. Yeah, an album that gets way more hate than it deserves. It's clear that Max means every word that he says. The riffs are full of passion and energy. Holds up particularly well to this day, and way better than a lot of people give it credit for. This is a great album. If you haven't already checked it out, this is a solid album. For those of you who haven't checked it out in many years, maybe go back and give it a listen. There's certainly a lot of good stuff on here. Yeah, so that's Soulfly. So what have I got coming up next? Well, after a good month or so of saying about it, I'm finally getting round to getting my City review, the Mighty Strapping Young Lad, their classic City album. That'll be for my classic album review. I hope to have that up in a couple of days. I'm hoping next week's going to be very good. We've got the new Clutch album, we've got the new Pig Destroyer album, and also Spiritualized as well. I was a big fan of Spiritualized back in the day, so I'm going to check out their album for something different. My channel, I'll do what I wish. But yeah, plenty to tune in for. So yeah, on that note, I think I'll fuck off.